It's New Year's Eve and it's New Year's in some places around the world, right? Happy New Year's, early New Year's anyways. What to reflect on? I was actually wondering if I could do a year-end video because as you guys know, I had to switch the video editing program quite, I guess, abruptly. I did try to come up with something. It was more as, I guess, a technical test too, but at the same time, just trying to gather the clips and so forth. And I thought, what could I do, I guess, on the last day of 2023? Any reflections or anything like that? I actually had a lot happen for me this year. A lot of it behind the scenes, and don't worry, they're actually really good. It's not directly, I guess you could say, related to any of the stuff that I do here in particular, but because of some of the opportunities I've gotten, actually, I might be able to use some of that stuff here and actually use it as a practice ground. It's kind of like, I guess you could say, I was testing out the mic and so forth, and I actually find it really useful right now to use actually, because various times it's easier to capture the ambient sound and the voice. At the same time, the quality is so much better. It's like night and day. I know it's one of those things where when you get used to something, you're like, oh, whatever, it's fine. But in comparison, it's like, no way, it's way better like this. So that might be something in the future as well. One thing I thought was funny to share, usually around this time of the year, YouTube sends people all these statistics on what their most viewed video and stuff were. Can you guys guess which one it was? I'm not surprised, I guess, but at the same time, it makes me wonder, what is the mass majority of people on YouTube trying to find in terms of like content, for example? Do you guys remember that day when I was walking, I accidentally captured those otters getting down to business per se? That was apparently, I guess, really hot this year. I mean, look at the statistics on this thing. 5,930 hours watched on this. Is there that many people looking for these types of, I guess, quote, content on YouTube? Jeez, and as well, YouTube actually really pushes this because people often say, for example, let's just say if you're talking about news or something to disagree with, they would, let's just say, suppress the video. But videos like this, look at that, 2.6 million impressions, 11%, I guess, click-through rate for about, what, 338,000 views for this? It makes you wonder, I guess, again, with this platform, what is the priority in terms of the, quote, I guess, content they want people to see and what people are actually looking for as well, I guess. So I thought that was actually something funny to share. In terms of creating content too, as you guys know, I didn't end up getting that piece of gear I wanted, and I know some of you are wondering, hey, what was that piece of gear? I talked about it last year. It was supposed to be part of my change where I wanted to use it as practice too with the new video editing suite, and it was basically a time-lapse camera, and with this in particular, it was specialized, it was newer. So you don't exactly find this stuff in the store because they're meant more, for example, like construction sites and all that, more business oriented. But I thought it would have been perfect for me because I could have, for example, a time-lapse camera that's very, I guess, low maintenance. Literally, leave it out there. It'll shoot everything for days and days. I can just take the footage and insert it, for example, like in the intro and stuff that you saw. That would have been perfect. But delays after delays, it was insane. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Can you imagine that? Over, or pretty much, yeah, about a year, I was waiting for it. What a waste of time in that sense. I was thinking, as I mentioned, of a plan B, and what that was simply buying something, for example, like a GoPro, and setting that up with a power supply. But I was debating again, do I really want to rush it? I know there's other solutions that are supposed to come out, especially with things like CES coming out. So I was debating before, is it worth it just to buy, like, again, like the GoPro and all that? So I decided to hold off. But yeah, that would have been great in my opinion in terms of capturing different perspectives and all that, and at the same time allowing me to enhance, I guess, my creativity in the way I can show things that are happening in the day. Other than that, has much changed? I was expecting, for example, more over-the-top regulations and all that in terms of making it more restrictive for flying things like a drone. But at the same time, it's one of those things you have to go from a day-by-day basis. Fly it whenever I can, and at the same time speak out when there's something really silly. People trying to, for example, create over-the-top regulations and stuff like that, huh? There were plenty of new interesting stuff this year. For example, I mentioned it in that video, like the beaver. I mean, that was a really cool experience. That was actually the first time I've encountered it, and look how close I got to it that time too. And that made me think too, just as a treat, actually in the year-end video, usually it's clips that you've seen before. However, in this case, I actually put stuff that you've never seen before. For example, I mentioned it in the comments. A lot of you don't believe me, for example, when I'm filming like those birds that come up to my hand, they go all over me. They land on my head and so forth. So I actually included clips of that just for the heck of it, just for something fun so you can see like behind the scenes and all that. Another thing that actually stuck out to my mind this year was how there's so many people that could benefit with the things that I do, for example, but they're just unaware of it. For example, even things like basic animal stuff. You guys are used to it actually by now, like me walking around, but so many people who see it for the first time, just from what I'm reading, they get so shocked and amazed. It makes them so happy. It just shows you how there's a big world out there that has still yet, I guess, to see these types of things, which could make their lives a lot better, whatever it may be. Maybe they're having a bad day, stuff like that could make them really happy. Or at the same time, actually for the year-end video, I've been actually letting some people see it, and when they see some clips of the drone videos, like of the sky, or let's just say the city, they're like, wow, their eyes light up. I think it's so great, and it just shows you there's so much opportunity there. Because I mentioned before, that's a powerful way, I guess, to get the message across per se. You could be behind the scenes and I guess trying to convince people in a position of power, or like again, with some of the stories I read in the year, arts and entertainment plays a huge role. When people see stuff like that, I mean, those videos, they speak louder than words in many cases. And can you imagine that? I mentioned before, a fake guru or a lobbyist, they try to suppress stuff like that, but when people see it, they'll be wondering, wait a minute, you're telling me I'm supposed to be afraid of this guy? You're stopping him from capturing stuff like that? I mean, in my opinion, more stuff like that needs to be done, and again, it just shows me there's so much more potential out there. I don't know what there's left to say, other than Happy New Year. I guess I'll do my last final captures of some of the wildlife, my last drone video, and as well, actually, when I get home, I have to actually finish editing the year-end video to include my final steps and stuff like that too. See you guys later.